Hi, Addison. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Alex. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Today, I wanted to start with your college experience. You made a bold choice to stay and finish your degree here in the US. You also chose to major in art history. Can you tell us a little bit about those decisions?
Yeah, for sure. I always loved art, right? Growing up, I always want to be an artist. But my mom was like, there are 1.3 billion people in China. You're not going to make it as an artist. So let's do something practical. So she nipped my dream in the bud. So when I came over here to study, I'm like, I really want to follow my passion and I really follow art. But at that time, it was too late for me to study visual arts. So the closest thing I can get is into art history, which I really enjoy. So I spent my undergrad studying art history, philosophy. I did all the fun classes, French, comparative literature, had a great experience. I loved it.
That's very cool. So you're in school, you have the art history major, and you're nearing the end of your time in college. How did you start thinking about what kind of jobs that you wanted to pursue?
Right. That's a question I got a lot. Actually, because art history is such a promising field, right? So at the time, actually, my friends have like this bet or joke about I can't like get a job. But I was like very confident. I maybe blindly confident, like ignorance was bliss kind of confident. I was like, okay, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna get a job. I know I can do well. I will excel no matter what I choose to. So I was just like very rigorously networking. I talked to people everywhere, professors, my peers, and I spoke to this interesting like uncle and student kind of pair in the Starbucks. Turn out, so it's totally stranger, right? But just like, oh, they're having a nice conversation. I was politely asking, can I join you guys? And they're like, yeah, sure. And they're talking about like life advice, career advices. And turned out that guy was some sort of big deal. Like he's like a millionaire himself. He's like entrepreneur. He has all his business going on. And he has a connection in Christie's, which is one of the two best auction houses in the world. And he's like, oh, what's your story? And then he learned that I'm in art history. I love art. I wanted to work in this field. He's like, oh, let me make a phone call for you. And then so that conversation turned into an internship interview. And I did well in the interview. And I actually started my career in Christie's as an intern there. And after that, it just opened a lot of doors for me. And I was working at an international gallery for a few years, really fully living in the art world, but on the business side of art consulting, advising collectors of what pieces to take.
Were there things that you felt were really valuable that you learned from working at the art gallery?
For sure. I think working at an art gallery at the time, I at least learned 3 important lessons. Number 1, you always want to present yourself professionally. In art world, everyone is beautiful, right? And everyone is like very dressed up, high heels, nail, and everything is done. So in order for you to stay professional and then carry your opinion on the art piece intellectually, I think it's very important for you to look more professional than beautiful. So that's number 1. And number 2, I think even though people look at our job seems like as a fun job, right? There's a lot of things you need to do in the back end to prepare. You need to know your artist. You need to know the piece of their inspiration. You need to know how this piece or this collection come to be, to connect, to make a true intellectual connection with your collector. Because the collectors come here, they're spending a lot of money. They're not just buying something pretty. They're buying something meaningful. They're buying something that's resonate with their own life experience. So as an art consultant, I really need to understand the depth of a piece and also understand how does that relate to a collector. You will be working with people from all parts of the world, all kinds of background, come from all kinds of culture. So you really need to have this open-mindedness to work with different personalities. Yeah.
After the art gallery, you joined a small tech startup in a business development role. You started working with data analysts to derive insights. What was exciting to you about this work, and what ultimately led you to take the plunge and go back to school to study data science?
For sure. So I think one important component between those two jobs, or connect me from the art world to a technology world, was my role. My role was client facing. I was doing presentation all day long. I was talking to people, right? So that kind of interpersonal skills is easily transferable. For me, at the time, it just my product changed from a piece of artwork to a piece of software. So that's like a natural transition. But I do have to pick up and learn a lot of like technical terms and a technical concept. At the time, definitely was a learning curve. I was working very closely with my data analysts and data scientists at the company to build cases and then to present to my potential clients. And I constantly find myself just like pretending that I understand and nodding along the meetings, but like I do not know what they're talking about. That's not a good feeling. That makes me feel like a fraud. That makes me feel question myself about, do I really understand my product? Am I following my ethics, right? When I make a sales introduction. And I just feel like I couldn't do that. I need to understand how it works to convince myself first, and then I can present this to other people. So that's like the moment that the light bulb turned on. Okay, it's the time. I need to go back to school.
I love that. I think it shows that you have a curiosity to understand how the data was being pulled together to help motivate you to then say, okay, no, I want to understand how to do this. I want to go back to school and learn this.
Yeah.
Tell me about making that decision. Were you scared to go back and then pursue a very technical degree?
No, not at all. I think I'm very lucky in the sense that, again, I think it's ignorance is bliss quality in me. It's like, I wasn't afraid of it. I was just like, okay, I want to get a technical degree. I want to get an engineering degree. And then you look back, right? Here's your goal. And then looking backwards, what do I need to do to get to this goal? So then it's like, you've taken this class, you do this prerequisites, da 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 da. So to-do list. Okay, then let's just get to them one by one. And then so that's how I did it. And then in hindsight, I feel really fortunate that I didn't ask anyone. I didn't really like do my research to my due diligence and understand what this means. Because if I did that, I may be scared. I may be like, oh, this looks overwhelming, and then I won't be taking any actions. So sometimes I do think like ignorance is bliss.
What do you think are the major differences between studying data science and working professionally as a product analyst or as a data scientist?
I think the biggest difference is that in school, in the academic world, there are an array of classes we need to take. And then among those classes, there's some sort of a hierarchy. Some are fancier classes or more advanced and the more difficult classes. And some are more fundamental, exploratory, or just like, I don't want to say basic, but like relatively speaking, less math, less like heavy computational classes, right? I'll give you two examples. At the time, we have this applied machine learning or machine learning class or deep learning class. These are the very advanced, very heavy algorithm driven classes, right? And then we have exploratory data analysis. We have visualization. These are like tweaking a block of code to make a picture or presentation looks nicer, right? So obviously as a student, you want to get the heavy like algorithm class because it's like, that's fancy, that's the cutting edge, that's what the buzzwords are, right? And then you're like, visualization, it's like very entry level. But however, those hierarchy in the classes doesn't translate exactly as it is into the real world. In real world, any of those skills, I would say are almost equally important. And it depends on what you do, right? Some people really find passion in visualization, and then they have like a specialized D3 visualization role, for example, in New York Times. And that's the best place to work as a visualization specialist. So And then they get, like, from a compensation wise, they get compensated really well as well. Nothing less than, like, say, a machine learning engineer. So I feel like in real world, it's just taking one skill, make it really, really good, and then drive values from that for your company.
Yeah. Agreed. One thing that we've also talked about a lot that I wanted to ask you about is beyond the actual data analysis skill set, what are certain personality types that you think would succeed as data analysts, as product analysts?
There are two things that are really important to be successful as a data analyst or product analyst. Number one is curiosity. I can't stress this enough, because during your analysis, there are a lot of times you're just coming up with hypotheses, and then you're trying to see if you can validate that hypothesis from your data, right? So you have to ask yourself a lot of questions, and then they better be good questions, right? But then how do you generate good questions? You just generate a lot of mediocre questions, and then some of them are going to be good. It's like you take 100 pictures, some of them are going to be good pictures. It's the same thing. So how do you come up with so many questions? You have to be naturally a curious person. And number two is the open-mindedness for you to work with different personalities. Before, people are keeping emphasizing on communication, right? You need to communicate. But then gradually I realized communication is actually the later stage of choice. It's like you need to reach some sort of mindset first. You need to have an open mind. You need to assume the other person have good intention. You need to kind of realize we come from all kind of different backgrounds. So naturally we're going to think a little bit differently. So with that, then you can, when you communicate, you will choose the respectful words, you will choose to communicate effectively instead of like a passive aggressively, right? So I think come to the core that the ability to be open-minded, to remind yourself, we're all here to work, we're all here to achieve the same goal, we're on the same team, that's gonna make you very successful.
Got it. One other question that I wanted to ask you about is we originally met in a professional capacity, and I saw you while you were interviewing for a role, and I was blown away by how professional and how prepared you were. Do you have any general advice about preparing for interviews?
Preparing for interviews, I feel like just be a good student. Be a good student, study your textbook, do your homework, learn about the company that you're gonna go into, connect with the person who might conduct your interview, right? Do you think it's creepy that people check out your profile, like the candidates? No, right? I personally don't think that's creepy. I think it's interesting and showing that the candidate is getting to know my background. Maybe they can find like a common, not like a common interest, but like more of like understanding what I'm looking for in a candidate, right? And definitely thoroughly research the company and then the role that you're interviewing for. Really, really trying to understand what the job is looking for, right? And then I also want to remind the candidate is that any interview is always a two-way interview. Don't feel like you are going to an exam and they're evaluating you. You're evaluating them too. You're interviewing with the person who could be potentially your boss. Do you get along with this person? Do you jive effortlessly, right? Because you're going to see this person 8-10 hours a day, 5 days a week. Sometimes you work on the weekends. So you need to naturally get along with this person or with this team. Here it is. Do your homework, be honest with yourself, interview the company as well. That's how you prepare for an interview.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, Addison.